Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another installment of our trapping series. It's a beautiful morning out here by the lake. It's in the high 60s, low 70s, unseasonably cool weather, so I thought I'd get out here and work on the Promontory peg trigger for you this morning. Now, the Promontory peg is a true blue Native American trap. They found a mess of them in cave dwellings out in Promontory, Utah, and that gives us the notion that they were actually used in North America, and they were used to secure game. So pretty versatile trap, number of different ways you can set it up. We're going to show you 2 or 3 different ones here today. Stay with me and we'll be back with you here in a minute as soon as we get some materials. Silver maple is pretty plentiful here in this area, and it's a pretty strong wood that's still pretty light and soft and easy to work with. Works pretty good for these trap triggers. So I'm going to find a green piece about the size of my thumb and I'll be back with you. Okay, so I've gone out and collected me a green stick, about the size of my thumb, a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to gauge our height here. The height of your trigger is going to depend on the deadfall you're using. You want it about right there. You want to make sure you're going to have a good angle. Keep my thumb there. It's going to make me a little mark here. Then we'll go back to our little workbench, get this prepared. Now that we have the measurement for our trigger, we're ready to start construction. Constructing this Promontory peg trigger, or Promontory point, however you want to call it, is actually very simple. It's going to take and beaver chew the excess off here. I've had a few questions about this blade I'm using here. This is the Reaper from Adirondack Knife Works out of New York. A gentleman named David Gray makes these. Very nice guy, very cooperative, very responsive, good guy to work with. And we've kind of worked out a deal where I'm going to do some field testing and research on his knife. And so far I really like it. Really cuts really well. We're just going to take and clean the ends off here, dress them up a little bit, give us a nice flat surface to work with here. One end will actually be resting on your deadfall, and then the other end will be resting on the ground. This is curved a little bit, as you can see. You may be able to see there. What we're going to do is we're going to make it the curve towards the inside. We're going to try to anyway. So what I'm going to do to kind of combat that is when I dress this end up here, get it cleaned off nice and flat. Then we're going to cut just a slight angle here. That way when it's sitting on the ground, we got like a little flat spot right here on the bottom. And that way if we need it, we can use it. If we don't have to. So we still have this flat spot here. We can put it more straight up and down if we need to. If we need to kick it forward a little bit, we got that spot to catch it. I do like to use green wood for this because on our next step we're actually going to have to split this. So green wood actually splits off a lot better. You try to use some dead dry wood and you're going to have a hard time getting this to split off. It can be done, but just a little bit more difficult. Okay, so for this trigger, we already know this is going to be the bottom because we have our angles cut here. And then this is going to be the top. So we're going to want our crook facing in here because this is eventually going to be separated and this top part will kind of set back from it anyway, so it'll straighten it up a bit. So what you do there is you're going to have to make a cut here down towards the bottom, and then one up here a little bit further, about halfway through the wood. Then you're going to split that off, and that's going to give you that barber chair or breakaway trigger action. So first we're going to go good 2.5 inches or so, 2.5 inches up. Just going to lightly baton that. Keep looking to see where we're at. Try to get about halfway through that wood. See, we're about halfway through right there. So then on the opposite side, make sure you're on the opposite side. You're going to go up a couple of inches. We're going to make a mark, and we're going to double check. Make sure we're good here. Do the same thing. We'll baton about halfway through or so. Hopefully you can see that. We got one here and one here. On the bottom side, you're going to want it on the back. On the top, on the front side, you're going to want it on the front. So I think I got a little critter sneaking up on me. To my right here, here's something walking around in the woods. So then I like to take my thumbs and just kind of push on that right there by that cut. You might be able to see that starting to split apart. And you just kind of work it down, and then that's what you get. And then when this is complete, it's going to go back together. You see how I said they're going to kind of separate anyway. So now our crooked stick looks a little bit straighter. I'm going to take, kind of clean this surface off a little bit. Make sure everything's kind of smooth. I'm going to take a ton of material off, but I'm going to make sure everything's straight so it seats in there good. Clean off this platform here a little bit. And that's going to be your top section. We'll do the same thing with the bottom section here. Working with these small pieces, you have to use caution. You don't get the best grip on these pieces. Sometimes you're not able to use the best technique, the best form. But luckily for such a big knife, this actually gets in there pretty good. And is able to clean everything out there. Okay, so now we have everything kind of cleaned up. We're going to remove a little bit more material from the top part of this. Kind of give it a little bit of a curve in. I picked a little bit of a knotty piece here, so I'm having a little trouble with that one little section there. See that knot there? So we're going to have a point in this anyway. We'll just cut it out. You can see there, I'm just taking the edges, carving them down, making this a point. Remove the bark there, make it a little easier to see. And like I said, this is going to go back together like this. Now you see the top end there is real close to my cut there. So we'll just take, and when we make our actual point, we'll just make sure we shorten that a little bit. And now you can see it's plenty clear of that. You don't want those two rubbing. That's just going to add friction to your trap. And you can see it's going to go together, something like that. Your deadfall is going to rest right here. Your bait's going to go in here. The animal pulls it out. Hopefully you're going to catch something. So we're going to take our deadfall, set it up here, and we're going to hold this with our fingers. You can see how the point is right up against this top stick here. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to work with that until we get it to the point where it leans forward just a bit. Take some adjustment, a little bit of patience. like they say, the harder it is to set, the more sensitive it's going to be. And looking at this, I actually think I have my top stick just a little bit too tall. So we're going to trim that off maybe about an inch, and then we'll be right back with you. Okay, so we carved about an inch, inch and a half off the top. Nothing wrong with making adjustments. The reason I did that was because at the height that it was at, I had to have this way out here. The animal wouldn't even have been in the trap whatsoever. That's already kind of a problem with this trigger. Hopefully I can get this set up and show you. So find that teetering point. Now, like I was saying before, the animal's not going to be that far in the trap. Now, as this falls, it'll swing down a little bit further than that. But the animal's going to be barely in the edge of the trap. So if you leave this all open here, he's going to come off over here, grab it, and he's going to jerk his head out there before the rock ever falls. So if you cram your bait in there real good, and you put some fencing around here, you're going to want to block off the ends of this trap. Don't obstruct the fall of it. Don't put sticks in here where they're going to fall on top of the sticks. But just have something to where they can't access the trap from this end or from the sides here, to where they have to come through a little spot right here and have most of their body in here to grab that bait. And then it's going to be harder for them to back out of it too, because you're going to have all this stuff in the way. So you're going to have your bait crammed in there. And I've never set a baited promontory peg, to be honest with you. But I'm assuming if you did, it might make it a little bit easier to set, because you're going to have that, the bait in there to kind of fall back onto if you cram it in here. Or you can just spear it onto your bait stick there. But also, like I mentioned earlier, with this trap, you can see that the components tend to break away to the inside. That's going to leave your components in the trap with the animal. And sometimes trapping small animals like this, that's going to give you a problem, because these animals aren't that big to begin with. You're going to give them this underneath there with them, and the ability maybe for this deadfall to roll around a little bit. Take our animal stick here, bebopping down the trail, we spot this juicy bait. You can see at the angle I had it there, this almost dropped right down on top of it. So that's why you got to get out and practice these things. I've set a few of these up and never had that problem before. But I have heard guys say if you increase the length of this stick, that can kind of help avoid that a little bit. Maybe I should have made this a little bit longer. Definitely going to have to play around with that a little bit more. And I hope you guys do too. You can see here that I've taken my trigger that I just made and put it onto the Arapuca bird cage that we made in video 4. And basically all I've done, not an original idea, another little trick I learned from Dave Canterbury, but you can see there I got my bank line tied on to the bait stick. And I actually took a piece of number 18 bank line and I took one strand. It's a 3-strand twist. I separated one strand. And the reason I do that is because that line is 110, 115 pound tensile strength. So you're not going to be able to get the string tight enough to make this trap very sensitive with that heavy duty string. The lower tensile strength string you use with this light trap is going to let that string stretch just a little bit when you put tension on it, and it's going to make everything a little bit more sensitive. Where they come out of the back of the cage, I basically just took 2 spreader sticks, drove them into the ground, ran that cordage along the outside of them, and that gives me my triangle on the inside. And then I just use my split stake here, ran them strings around the outside here, and then right through that split. What that's going to allow me to do is just slowly put tension on these strings and get the sensitivity that I want on my trap. Okay, so hopefully you can see that good. I'm just going to gently pull on that string until it starts to pull that away, and you can see that moving. I'm going to go just a little bit more. I don't want to go too far and set the trigger up. But the good thing about the post is now that I have that tension set, I can just kind of jam it further down in there and it'll stay. And I can work with my other string and just barely pull it with that one. And then, like in the broken stick video, I can just take my string, wrap it around that post a few times, and then wrap it into the split. For your bait, you want to throw some bird seed, cracked corn, something in here that you know the birds are going to eat. You could also use this the same way like I talked earlier. You could use your one string here, just go into your post stick, a lot like that broken stick Deadfall. You could bait the center of it for a squirrel or something small like that. So anyhow, say we got our bird seed in there, the bird's going to be hopping around all crazy, picking at this seed. You might want to put a little bit here at the edge, just kind of like an appetizer. And as they peck at it and jump around in here, you're going to set off that trigger, the cage is going to fall on them, and then when you get back, hopefully you're going to have a live meal waiting for you. I'm going to set this back up and I'm going to go over a couple of ways that you can secure this trap down to where it won't move on you, say if you were to use it for a squirrel or something. Okay, so you can see what I've done here. I left the sticks longer so they're easier to see. I've taken and drove some pointed sticks into the ground. You can see where the two rails here are on the bottom bar of this cage. I just put them on the inside of that. Now you don't want to put them so close to your cage that it's going to fall down and this is going to disrupt the fall of your cage. You want to make sure your cage can fall freely, so give it a little bit of slack. Same way on the back. I just got it right up there against that stick, right up against the stick on the other side. Now when the animal comes in here and triggers that trigger, you got this locked in place. If it's a squirrel and he tries to run this way, he ain't going to be able to go this way. If he tries to run this way, he's not going to be able to go this way. If he tries to go either way this way, he's not going to be able to go. And of course you're going to want these drove in a lot more sturdy than this. This is kind of a quick demo, but that'll allow your animal to still be there whenever you get back. Okay, so now you can see we have this set up basically just like our broken stick deadfall trap from video 1. So we're going to have our bait down in here, at least halfway into our trap. It's going to come in here, it's going to grab it, and it's going to fall. Guys, as always, thanks for coming along with me. I hope you enjoyed my little version of the Promontory peg deadfall. Sure, it's nothing you haven't seen before, but for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I hope you've seen something you can take from this video and try out for yourself. This is Kevin. I hope I see you in the woods real soon.